That's better. Oh, hey guys, it's your girl, Nintendo Hater 2004, back at it again with more pointless slop. Man, it's been a long time since I've talked about anything Nintendo related. Let me tell you guys a story. Back in ye olden times, I was a fairly avid Nintendo fan. This was like pre-lockdown days. I was really into Mario, Smash Bros, all that Scrimblow stuff. I guess I mentally checked out of whatever Nintendo was doing during the latter half of the Switch era, and now look at me. I'm in a completely different ecosystem. One day I thought to myself, as much of an action-adventure gamer as I am, I haven't really played the pioneer of the genre, save for about 20 minutes emulated in middle school. Back then, I could never really get into it, but now, that changes. It's finally time I beat my first Zelda game, The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. I'm sure everyone who's talked about this game has used this title screen before. Before diving in, I want to preface by saying I'm basically a tourist. This is just my experience with the game, and if I get anything wrong, don't yell at me. Let's all just try to keep things civil. Anyway, Ocarina of Time started development in 1994 alongside Super Mario 64. This game had multiple directors work on separate sections, but things started to fall apart that way, so they brought in Miyamoto to fix the whole thing. Two of the devs who worked on this game were Yoshiaki Koizumi and Eiji Aonuma, who would go on to be the main directors for the Mario and Zelda series respectively. I can't really speak on Aonuma's handling of the series since, you know, I'm new, but Koizumi directed my two favorite Mario games, so that's interesting. Inspired by Link to the Past story and overall scale, as well as some European influences in the form of German architecture and the classic fairy tale Peter Pan, Ocarina of Time would translate the top-down Zelda formula into 3D, releasing on the N64 in 1998, which, as I've said before, was a golden year for gaming. One last thing to mention is that I'm using the fan-made port ship of Harkinian. Don't worry, mentioning it won't cause Nintendo to shut it down. It requires you to verify your legally obtained copy of the game. This port has a ton of quality of life improvements, which I'll talk about later, but without further ado, here's The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. As far as I know, these games take place in their own separate worlds or continuities, but they all share the same timeline thanks to reincarnation and most of them being separated by hundreds of years. The point is, I don't think I need prior knowledge of any other game, and I can treat Ocarina of Time as a standalone experience. With that said, after we boot up a fresh save file, the game opens with a monologue of the guardian of the forest, the Great Deku Tree. He goes over some lore regarding the children who reside here, each of which have their own guardian fairy, except for our hero, Link. The Deku Tree talks of a looming danger. Malevolent forces attack the sacred sanctuary of the Kokiri Forest. Now is the time to test the courage of Link, the boy without a fairy. The Deku Tree sends Navi to his aid, and just like that, she's on her way. What the hell is that kid doing? So now Navi and Link are paired together and she lets him know that the wise and mystical tree summons him. I just noticed her name is short for Navigator. God damn it, it's Undertale all over again. The first area of the game is the Kokiri Forest, where we get a good idea of how the game works. We meet a couple of charming NPCs like Saria, Link's childhood friend, the weird rock humper whose clones can be found scattered throughout the village, and Mido, the village asshole. There's also this girl perched atop the shop, the Know-It-All Brothers home? So, Reddit? The first thing I notice is how good Link controls. Like I said earlier, I play tons of action-adventure games. Games like God of War, Resident Evil 4, Uncharted, Persona 5... The Last of Us. So it's pretty interesting to see where most modern game mechanics got their start. For example, there's no dedicated jump button, but Link will automatically jump over ledges, climb on certain walls, and roll around. We're also taught about the target system, which is where Navi comes in. I think it's pretty charming that Navi only exists to explain this new gameplay mechanic to us, much like how the Lakitu cameraman worked in Mario 64. In Ocarina of Time, you can press the Z button to target something, an enemy, NPC, whatever it may be. The target system makes it easy to fight your foes or talk to faraway people. Man, if I had a nickel for a 3D entry in a previously 2D series that introduced a target mechanic to make the gameplay work in 3D, I'd have 2 nickels, which blah blah blah, you know how the meme goes. The main objective of the forest is to collect a sword and shield. It doesn't take long to gather enough rupees to buy the Kokiri shield. After all, a bit of property damage never hurt anyone, right? And over here we enter this corridor to obtain the sword, so skipping ahead we come face to face with the great Deku Tree. To prove ourselves worthy, we need to go inside the Deku Tree to cure him of a parasite that's slowly killing him. And side note, if you couldn't tell, the story is very basic. This is a Nintendo game after all. They aren't a very story-focused developer. But regardless, we agree to help him out, leading to the first of many dungeons. Dungeons are a series staple, and in this game each one is incredibly well designed. Except for one. You know the one. The dungeons are designed in a way that the whole thing is one giant puzzle that consists of other smaller ones that come together in a cool way. These puzzles include the good old finding keys to open doors, or the one and only push the block puzzle, because it wouldn't be an action-adventure game without it! Of course, in order to make things easier, we can collect the map and compass, which wasn't too hard to find here. Over here on this climbable wall is our first of many golden skulltulas, and as you'll see later, I'll be hunting down as many of them as I can, so we'll just put a pin on them for now. As for their normal counterparts, they're not too bad to defeat, as well as the piranha plants on the ground. Killing them gives you one of 2 sub-weapons, the sticks and seeds. They were also buyable in the shop earlier, but really, why the hell would you waste your rupees on them? Anyway, the seeds are used to stun enemies, and the stick is more puzzle-focused since it can catch on fire in order to light torches or burn spider webs. Ah, take a look everyone, I got the slingshot. This is a neat ranged weapon that shoots pellets which are refilled by killing enemies. It's not only useful in combat, but in puzzles too. Onto the sub-weapon select you go! Traveling deeper into the dungeon, we come across these strange larvae, and there's no mistaking it, these are the parasites killing the Deku Tree. These things are called the Goma, and they're simple to kill, only taking a couple sword slashes. And now, we're finally at the root of the problem. Get it? Our first boss fight is against the Goma Queen. Well, that was easy. This is an early game boss after all. Regardless, our heroism has been proved, so we teleport back to the Deku Tree and we learn that a wicked man from the desert is who put this curse on him. Yep, there he is, the great king of evil, Ganondorf. Ganon cursed the Deku Tree on his quest to enter Hyrule's sacred realm, so we get an explanation on the creation of Hyrule. Long ago, 3 goddesses, Din, Nehru, and Farore, created this realm along with the legendary Triforce, a mythical wish-granting symbol representing courage, wisdom, and power. These holy triangles are stored in Hyrule's sacred realm, and now the evil wizard Ganon is after it. We need to stop him from getting his wish granted, so in order to do so, we obtain the first of many magical MacGuffins, the Kokiri Emerald. Our next destination is Hyrule Castle, so we can meet the one and only Princess Zelda to help save the world and fulfill the Guardian of the Forest's last request. As a parting gift, Saria gives us her ocarina, which is the most useful tool in the game. You would hope so, since it's on the fucking name. I'm glad it's not just a glorified interact button, and instead we can do things like warp from place to place, change the time of day, or make it rain. But let's not get too ahead of ourselves. So here we are at the Hyrule Field, on our way to the castle. This field is pretty fucking big, but to its credit, there's fun stuff to do here, there, and everywhere. But for now, I'm just gonna walk or roll to the next quest objective. Besides, it gives me plenty of time to talk about this game's presentation. The original game definitely had its own unique aesthetic, which fits the fairy tale-ish vibe very well. As you can see, I'm using an HD texture mod, Ocarina of Time Reloaded, and I think it looks great for the most part. Of course, link is in the description. And so is the mod. These textures really pop, making stuff like grass, wood, and brick surfaces look much more clear. As far as I know, stuff like menu icons are lifted from the 3DS remake, while some stuff is either promotional renders drawn over or AI upscaled, meaning some pre-rendered backgrounds can look a little iffy, most notably when we take a peek inside Hyrule Market from the front gate, but it's no big deal. Another nitpick is that the game can stutter once every 5 minutes or so, probably due to how big the texture pack is. Again, it's not a big deal, I really could care less, the game runs great otherwise. And while I'm talking about the texture pack, I should probably discuss the other Ship of Harkinian improvements. For one, button remapping. As you can see, this monstrosity of a controller is very different from the modern standard, so of course this is Ship of Harkinian's most vital feature in my opinion. While the N64's C buttons originally controlled the ocarina, sub-weapons, and camera, I made it so the left, down, and right C buttons are now square, triangle, and R1, which feels great. When I initially tried Ship of Harkinian, I didn't realize you could do this, so I kept toggling them with the right stick, which made me fuck up quite a lot, but whatever, not a problem anymore. You can also play the ocarina with the D-pad, freely control the camera with the right stick, and go into first-person mode with R3, perfectly modernizing this game's controls. I love it. Secondly, the game is also running at a crisp 120 FPS, but you can make it go higher depending on your monitor's refresh rate. The more frames, the better, baby! There's also various speed-ups and cheats to make the overall experience a bit better, like faster climbing, text scrolling, and pushing. Listen, I had to sit through the slow-ass pushing during the first playthrough and in the God of War 1 video. I am not sitting through that again. Please let me have this. We're gonna be doing this a lot. There's also an option to shut Navi up, because as we all know, this glowing testicle can get pretty annoying with her constant—
Hey, listen!
Other extras that aren't essential are things like the randomizer, master quest, the ability to change your tunic color, and the ability to change the music. Ocarina of Time if it was good! But we're getting too ahead of ourselves. Let's talk a little bit about Hyrule Field. This semi-open field is where all the major areas are connected from, and I think this is really where the game starts to shine with its presentation, even if the forest was very pretty looking already. I know the field isn't much to look at, but the music is what really carries this moment. The Hyrule Field theme in this game is so adventurous and grand. It does a great job at welcoming you to this large, fantastical world on our way to save it. I also like the fact that it's adaptive to whatever you're doing, whether it be moving to the next objective, taking a breather, or fighting enemies. Of course, that's not the only thing the field is known for. This game is what popularized the day and night cycle, with the night being more dangerous since these weird skeleton creatures come out to play. Not only that, but the castle gates are closed during the night, so I had to camp out and stand my ground until sunrise. Once the gates are open, we climb up here to get free money, go into this room to kill another gold statula, and now we're here. Hyrule Castle Market. This bustling village is home to more quirky NPCs, but mainly there's tons of other stuff like the first shop that's actually useful, the happy mask salesman who we'll come back to later, this chest opening minigame that's just a guessing game until later, and most importantly, hidden behind the plaza is the enigmatic Temple of Time, the temple built by the 7 sages long ago to protect the sacred realm, but we'll get to that later. Whoa, be careful, Link, I don't want you to get a concussion. Never mind, roll into every tree in Hyrule. After the easiest stealth section in gaming history, it doesn't take long before we meet the one and only Princess Zelda. Zelda pretty much warms up to Link immediately since she has prophetic dreams involving Link and Ganon. As we and Zelda know, Ganon wants to enter the Sacred Realm to have his wicked wish granted, but if Zelda were to tell her father, he wouldn't believe her since it's revealed that Ganon swears loyalty to the king. In order to counter this, our goal is to enter the realm before he does so we can make a noble wish. And since we already have the Kokiri Emerald, all we need is 2 more Spirit Stones and an artifact passed down from generations within the royal family, the Ocarina of Time. Before we set off to find the other stones, Zelda wishes us luck and we meet up with her attendant, Impa, who teaches us the first ocarina song, Zelda's Lullaby. This melody is essentially just an interact button, which is usable on areas with a Triforce symbol showing a connection to the royal family. And while we're on the subject of ocarina songs, before the next main objective, we can journey back to the Kokiri Forest and meet up with Saria to get Saria's song. This song symbolizes Saria's friendship with Link, which is nice, but unfortunately it's kinda useless. You can use it to talk to Saria, and that's really about it. But don't worry, let's head over to the farm that's smack dab in the middle of the field, Lon Lon Ranch, to get another song. In the middle of the pasture we can talk to Malon. I didn't mention her earlier, but we briefly spoke with her to sneak into the castle. Showing Malon our ocarina gives us Epona's song, named after this cute baby horse that's just chilling over here. Epona's song basically charms any friendly animal, as we see here. After we play it for the first time, Epona immediately warms up to us, and later on we can play the song next to cows to get milk, which restores health. Speaking of which, in order to get the first bottle, we can talk to Malon's father, and dude, that's just Mario. Did Nintendo even try? And in this room we can see if it wasn't obvious already, after meeting with Zelda, the game opens up more and we're allowed to explore to our heart's content. Of course, we're pretty ill-equipped, so we can't do everything, but there's still a fair amount of side activities to do. As much as I loved my first playthrough, I think the game is definitely more fun on a replay, since I know where more stuff is now and I can basically just wipe this game clean. Most of the appeal is just exploring and constantly getting distracted by side quests to do. For example, our next objective is going into Death Mountain, but on our way there we can enter Kakariko Village, the hometown of Impa's people, the Sheikah, only recently opening the town to civilians. It's not as jam-packed as the castle market, but the vibe here feels more humble and warm. It's very homey. This piece is what all true warriors strive for. From here we can do a side quest that has us grab 7 cocks for this lady, and it's a decent puzzle that lets us take advantage of their wings, allowing us to fall slowly after a jump. Once done, we get another bottle, allowing us to scoop up bugs on the floor, and if we put a bug in this hole, what do you know, another golden Skulltula! Speaking of which, let's see the main reason why I'm collecting them. In this house, we can see a whole family cursed, transformed into Skulltulas. The more Skulltula medals we get, the more family members will be turned back to normal, so it's up to us to reverse the curse out of the goodness of our hearts. Just kidding, at this point I collected like 10 of them, so I was awarded the adult wallet, which raised rupee capacity. Ah, capitalism. Jokes aside, the Skulltula tokens are a genuinely good addition to the game, and going out of your way to grab them is encouraged due to these rewards. They're mostly found during the night, in holes in the ground, or in dungeons. I'm gonna try to grab all 100 of them during this playthrough, but we'll just have to see. On my quest to find more, I stumbled across the graveyard, the resting place of the royal family, but more importantly, a new shield! Huh. Looks a little big. Whatever, I'm sure we'll grow into it. There's also the Happy Mask Fetch quest, which is activated after showing the Royal Guard Zelda's letter. And the reward isn't that important, but it's kind of funny. Wearable masks of other species. They got all the best masks. Sexy Fish, Blackface, and Rock Eater. Speaking of which, we climb atop Death Mountain, a rocky summit that's home to the Goron race. They're going through a bit of a pickle since Ganon decided to be a little silly by sealing off their food supply of rocks and infesting it with dangerous creatures. Okay, I don't get why they need my help for this. Do they really need to use the cavern for food? The whole mountain is littered with rocks you can pick up. Hell, the whole mountain is made of rocks. Whatever, I'm not gonna question it too much. On our way up, we enter Goron City, talk to the chief, cheer him up with Saria's song, and he gives us a funny bracelet that allows us to pick up bomb flowers. There's extra stuff we can do with the bombs, but mainly we can destroy the huge boulder and enter the second dungeon, the Dongo's Cavern. I'm a big fan of the vibes in this one. I love the little pool of lava below and the huge Dodongo skull in the center, and the ambience is nice and spooky. Gameplay wise, it's a lot better than the first one now that we have more tools to work with. This one relies on the slingshot and bombs, and later on we're granted the ability to hold our own bombs. We can use them to destroy special walls and kill certain enemies like the aforementioned Dodongos. Of course, there's also the lizard guys that test out your Z-target combat expertise, which is a fun little obstacle. I actually got through most of this dungeon without the compass or map, which was a little surprising, but toward the end I nabbed them both because why not? You might have also noticed that I've got the Hylian shield equipped, and that's because the Kokiri shield is susceptible to burning up until you buy a new one, and I didn't want to deal with that in this playthrough. Regardless, the dungeon ends once we throw bombs into the skull's eyes, and the boss fight against King Dodongo uses the bombs as well. Nothing to write home about, but it was decently stimulating, I guess. Afterward, we get our second doohickey, become sworn brothers with the chief. Unwillingly, it seems. And before moving on to the next area, we can climb atop the mountain to enter the first of a few great fairy fountains. There's a few secret fountains that restore your health throughout the game, but some grant you optional but pretty useful magic abilities. This fine lady gives us a magic spin attack that consumes magic out of our newly acquired meter, and she mentions she has a friend in Hyrule Castle, so one trip later we get Din's Fire, a magic spell that engulfs the area in flames. There's other fairy fountains that house little fairies that replenish your health, and you can also trap them within bottles, which is pretty useful. But back to the main quest, the third and final spirit stone is in Zora's domain, and we get there by following the river upstream. The watery cave is inhabited by the Zora, a race of sexy fish people. I hate to repeat myself, but goddamn, the texture pack is such a great addition to this playthrough. It makes Zora's domain look really pretty. The rock and water surfaces look delicious. I want to eat this area. I'm also a big fan of the music with how peaceful and wondrous it feels. But of course, there's trouble in paradise. The king of the Zora is missing his daughter, Princess Ruto, but it's not like that's any of our business. Gotta keep looking for those stones after all. Over here we do a diving minigame and we're awarded with the silver scale, allowing us to dive underwater for a longer period of time. With it we can swim through this passage to Lake Hylia, and we learn a new tune, the Scarecrow song. This one helps find cool secrets, and it's unique since we have to come up with the melody ourselves. Look out, Koji Kondo, I'm coming for your job! Anyway, there's also the third bottle underwater with a message from Princess Ruto, so I guess it's our problem after all. Ruto was on her way to feed Lord Jabu Jabu, the Zora people's fish overlord, until he accidentally swallowed their magical doodad and she went in after it. So after promising the king that we'll save his daughter, he scoots aside so we can enter the third dungeon. Boy, I sure do love Ocarina of Time. The next dungeon is inside Lord Jabu Jabu, and it's littered with bubbles, jellyfish, parasitic worms. Yeah, it's a little gross, I won't lie. At least the music is nice. This dungeon gives us two new items. For one, the boomerang, which functions as expected. It's probably my favorite sub-weapon in the game, at least for young Link. I don't know, it just feels satisfying to chuck it at stuff, especially the parasite mini-bosses here. And the second item is Princess Ruto. This bratty child is so stubborn she only lets us tag along if we agree to carry her. She's actually kind of adorable, especially the little sound effects that she makes when we throw her. We can use Ruto to hold down buttons that we can't otherwise, and some sections have you figure out how you're gonna get Ruto to the other side of the room because she dies if she touches water, despite being a fish. 0 out of 10, never cook again, Miyamoto. If she dies, she'll respawn back to the main room, say something mildly sexist, and reset back to school code red position. At the end of the dungeon, Ruto finds the stone and okay, I forgot, it's boss time. This one kinda sucks in my opinion. It's pretty simple, you just gotta boomerang it and slash slash the backside, but it's a little tedious to move at a near identical speed as the boss while you're trying to make your way to the other side. God forbid he changes directions, meaning you have to start all over again. And be careful of the stupid spiked disc in the middle. Yay! Whatever, it didn't take too long to beat, so it's not the worst thing ever. And hey, the game quickly makes up for it by throwing an infinitely better boss fight at us. This one's probably my favorite so far, mainly because it utilizes the boomerang pretty well. It uses jellyfish as a protective shell, so we gotta get rid of them before stunning the boss to slice it up with our sword. Once it ends, Rudo seems to grow a liking to Link, so she agrees to give us the stone if we marry her. I already thought her voice sounded very Amy Rose-like, but this just cements it. But with that, we got all 3 thingamabobs. Now we have to go back to Hyrule Castle to get the authentic N64 copy of Ocarina of Time. I'm sure Zelda would be happy to help. Oh man, this is tragic. I didn't know she'd be emulating until the Nintendo Ninjas got her. Oh, and by the way, Ganon's here. Ganondorf tries to go after Zelda, but to no avail. After asking Link where they went, our mute lunatic squares up for a fight, but Ganon demonstrates his sheer power with a devastating Baja Blast to the chest. The situation looks dire, but don't fret, Zelda threw something in the moat, that being her illegally downloaded ROM of Ocarina of Time, which we can finally use to activate the Temple of Time. Zelda talks to us telepathically, teaching us a new song, the Song of Time. This funky tune activates blocks or areas with the Temple of Time symbol, which we can use in upcoming dungeons, and we first use it to open the door to the Sacred Realm to find the legendary Master Sword in the center of the Triforce altar, bathing in a golden light. And when we finally step up to pull the sword out and enter Hyrule's Sacred Realm, we see that Ganondorf played us for fools this whole time. Oh well, not gonna fault them for this. They are kids after all. But not for long, because as we see, we're finally in the Sacred Realm, greeted by Rauru, one of the original 7 sages who created the temple to protect this realm. But when we open the seal, Ganondorf sees the Triforce to make a wish, so now he rules over Hyrule as the King of Evil. A noble soul with the title Hero of Time is the only one who can pull out the Master Sword, but since Link was too young to be the Hero of Time, his soul was trapped in the Sacred Realm for 7 years, and now we're reawakened as an adult. And I gotta say, this is probably my favorite Link design. I can't really pinpoint what exactly makes it my favorite. Maybe the colors, the stance, his drip. Whatever the case, he looks pretty cool, and his design fits the upcoming tonal shift the story takes as opposed to his more innocent Child of the Forest design. Apparently they came up with adult Link's design first, but Miyamoto fucking hated it, so they made young Link as a compromise, which I think is the funniest thing ever. Miyamoto is so damn stubborn. Anyway, our goal now is to unite the 7 sages to defeat Ganon and save the day. And as proof as collecting the 7 sages, they each have a funny medallion that corresponds with them. And simply activating the Temple of Time and meeting Rauru grants us the first one. This is Sheik, a ninja from the Sheikah tribe. The only Sheikah we've seen so far is Impa, Zelda's protector, so, you know, it's pretty obvious who's Sheik's secret identity. But regardless, he is now our partner in crime, and he lets us know that in order to advance on our quest, we need to head over to Kakariko Village where a helpful item awaits. From here on out, Sheik will aid us on our quest and teach us new songs that warp us to the front of each adult dungeon, which is a godsend. You can also switch between links via the Temple of Time, or in the Ship of Harkinian settings for convenience. And some of young Link's weapons are unusable as adult Link, and vice versa. On our way to Kakariko Village, we step outside, and this is where the tone shifts. No cutscene, nothing, you're just thrown into it. I remember when I first stepped outside the Temple of Time, I was a little shocked. What was once a colorful, peaceful plaza full of people who prospered, played around, danced in the streets, what have you, is now a dark wasteland infested with zombies. And when we go to where the castle once was, we see it's been replaced by Ganondorf's Mordor-looking ass tower of dark magic. Even if Hyrule Castle is the most drastic change in the adult timeline, every other area has been altered somehow under Ganondorf's regime. regime. Kokiri Forest is now infested with monsters, Lake Hylia is drained up, Goron City is completely empty, etc. After spending so much time interacting with the natural side of Hyrule, seeing it ruined by Ganon's hostile takeover is pretty impactful. It makes it clear that Ganon has to go. In the graveyard we find another song, the Sun Song, which changes the time of day, and we see that the Gravekeeper here died, so after a race with his spirit, he grants us the hook shot, a ranged grapple hook that we can use to get to hard to reach areas. There's also an upgrade that increases its range later, which is very appreciated. I think the hook shot is my favorite adult weapon, actually second favorite. I forgot about Epona! Under Ganon's rule, Malon and Talon were kicked out of Lon Lon Ranch, but Malon still sneaks in during the night singing her song. Now the farm is owned by Luigi, and he's being a total jackass as usual. But thankfully, he lets us play around with the horses in the ranch, and since we tamed Epona in the past, she's more than happy to let us climb aboard. There's a couple fences in here that teaches us how to jump over things, and after a couple races where Luigi loses by doing absolutely everything, it's time to escape the ranch. Yahoo! I didn't know you could jump over this fence. I thought you had to jump over Luigi. So now we can ride Ebola in the overworld and we can summon her by playing her song. This is a massive improvement to the field traversal. It feels really cool to just ride from place to place on horseback. The controls can be a little tanky when it comes to precise movement, but it's a little expected. We are riding on horseback after all. Also, I didn't realize this until I finished my session of the day, but I accidentally left on the infinite stamina cheat in the Ship of Harkinian settings. Whoops. But at the same time, do you really care? But with that, we're free to enter the first adult dungeon, the Temple of the Forest. And would you look at that? I got 50 golden sculptulas. Woohoo! In your face, Miyamoto! The path to the Forest Temple is through the Lost Woods, the area with iconic music, plenty of little secrets and passages to other areas, and most notably, no map. We went through it to get Saria's song way earlier, I just didn't mention it. At least there, you need to listen to where the music is coming from to get to the right path, but afterward, unless you look up a map or have it memorized, tough luck, pal. On our way to the temple, we see that Mido, the village asshole, looks exactly the same as he did 7 years ago, which I'm going to assume is due to lazy developers, and move on. The path is blocked by these new pig enemies and... think he noticed me. Anyway, we're finally at the Temple of the Forest. This is the first adult dungeon, and it sets a good precedent on how each of them operate, that is, slightly more complex than the stupid baby gamer ones. While I could do some of those without a map, I legit got lost in the Forest Temple a couple times, but it never really felt unfair. It's a good head scratcher. Puzzle-wise, we need to restore 4 flames in the main room, and in order to do that, we need to hunt down these little ghost dudes named Poes. As I'm looking for the first Poe right now, we do the usual key finding, door opening, map and compass acquiring, song and dance. There's this room that bends reality, this underwater well, plenty of enemies and obstacles to test the hook shot on, and most notably, this weird glitch. Nah, I'm just kidding. It's a new item in the form of the Fairy Crossbow, a ranged bow and arrow attack that activates certain buttons, which is used pretty well in this dungeon. I especially like the moment where we gotta shoot it through fire to melt the ice and activate the buttons simultaneously. It was pretty cool. The boss of this area is Phantom Ganon, who uses the crossbow well, but other than that, I don't really have much to say on it, so let's just move on. Back in the Sacred Realm, we get a couple more bombshells thrown at us. For one, Saria has awakened as one of the 7 sages, which was foreshadowed way back when we reunited with her in the child era, with her talking about how she has a special feeling about this temple. Each of the 7 sages is someone we've encountered in the child era before, although story-wise some are better executed than others, but for now we obtain the 2nd medallion, with only 5 to go. Yeah, Link, I'd scream too if I saw a baby as ugly as that. Anyway, this is the Deku Tree Sprout, and he basically explains why Link aged while the other Kokiri children didn't. That's because Link is actually a Hylian, not a Kokiri. In this timeline, Link was hidden as a baby in the forest during some war before the King of Hyrule united all the races. He was already sort of treated as an outcast by his peers, but this just cements it. Also, I was joking with that lazy developers comment. I love rage baiting people. Also, at this point, I looked up the reward for getting all the gold Skulltulas, and it's... Yeah, I guess 50 is good enough. The next temple is the Fire Temple, which is located atop Death Mountain's volcanic crater. You can enter this area as young Link, but you won't be able to do much as you can only spend 2 minutes here before burning up and dying. Thankfully, as a grown-up, we have access to alternate tunics that offer resistance to heat and drowning, with the Fire Tunic being obtained by giving this Goron the Oppenheimer special. And quick side note, I had no idea I could just buy the big Goron sword by this guy hiding behind the bombable walls. I thought you had to do that stupidly long fetch quest to obtain it. Oh, I didn't realize I was playing Breath of the Wild. Oh well, I guess I have to do that fetch quest later. Yay! Anyway, back to the Fire Temple. Like I said earlier, Goron City is completely empty and all the Gorons were imprisoned by Ganondorf. On top of that, he also resurrected a scary dragon that was infamous for eating the Goron people alive, so the goal here is to rescue all the Gorons and slay the dragon. Aesthetically, this temple is very similar to Dodongo's cavern, but noticeably more man-made. This temple was probably built by the Goron people to contain the dragon. I also like the music. It's very atmospheric and mysterious, and I think the chanting fits here. I like to imagine it's the Gorons begging for help from their capture. Of course, I can't mention the music without mentioning the controversy behind it. You all probably know this already, but the chanting in this song is a Muslim prayer, and Nintendo scrubbed it out of future releases of the game after finding out. Apparently, there was a misconception for years that said Muslim groups pressured Nintendo to remove it, but in reality, Nintendo just doesn't want any religious stuff in Zelda. In addition to the chanting, there's an Islamic symbol on a handful of items that were also subsequently removed, and listen, as someone who really has no say in this matter, I just thought it was cool and it makes this game all the more interesting. But besides that, this temple is noticeably more straightforward compared to the Forest Temple. Not that that's a bad thing. As much as I liked how intricate that one was, I like the somewhat simplistic layout. It's a nice change of pace. I sure hope the next dungeon is something more difficult though. The new item we gain from this dungeon is the Megaton Hammer, allowing us to smash certain rocks, and it's very useful in the dragon boss fight, but otherwise that's about it for the Fire Temple. And after we learn the Goron Chief is one of the sages, we're 3 medallions down with 4 remaining. Up next is a mini dungeon in Zoro's domain, and it's completely frozen up under Ganondorf's rule. Considering I praised this area way before, this is pretty heartbreaking to see. We don't even see Lord Jabu Jabu outside, so Lord knows what happened to him. Anyway, the dungeon in question is the Ice Cavern, which is basically everything it says on the can. It's pretty short and there's not much to talk about here. The only noteworthy stuff here is the frozen bat enemies can be really annoying, and there's this gimmick in the form of the special flames that can be bottled up and poured onto red tinted ice, which is how we free King Zora. And now that we have King Zora unfrozen and freed Epona, we can finally do the long, stupid-ass Big Goron fetch quest. First, we go back to Kakariko Village and get a chicken egg from Miss Lady. Then we play the sun song to make a day go by, and the egg should hatch into a chicken, which we can use to wake up Mario. The chicken will feel happy, so we return it, and the lady gives us a chicken, but this one's blue. There's a depressed loser in the Lost Woods who really wants the chicken, so he gives us a mushroom which we can take to the Kakariko Village potion shop under a time limit, which we can use to get a potion, so when we go back to the woods, the loser isn't here anymore, but we give it to this little girl who gives us the poacher's saw. We head to Gerudo Valley, give it to this carpenter, and he gives us the broken Goron sword. Motherfucker, I already have one. So when we take it to the big Goron atop Death Mountain, he'll gladly fix it for us, but the eruption has left him blind, so we need to give him eye drops. We get a prescription, we take it to King Zora, he gives us ingredients. We need to hurry back to Death Mountain on horseback, and to make it easier, you can buy magic beans in the child era, putting them in holes in the ground, and we'll turn them into shortcuts in the future. So once we deliver the eye drops, we play the sun song to make 3 days go by, and we finally obtain Big Goron's sword. Jesus Christ, can you make it any more advanced for me? This deals twice as much damage as the Master Sword, and it just looks really massive. Look at this fucking thing. Definitely worth the fetch quest. But with that done, we're finally here. Say it with me, folks. It's the worst part in the entire game. The water temple has been universally hated on launch, but nowadays it's a little more divisive. While some people consider it a masterclass in level design, some call it confusing and tedious. As for me, well, I know I joked about this area being not very well designed, but to be honest, I don't think it's that bad. It's still really confusing, and I had to resort to looking up a walkthrough occasionally just to steer myself in the right direction, but at the end of the day, it was just whatever. Sure, it got me thinking, but it didn't really feel rewarding to beat. I just felt relieved I didn't have to do that again. Anyway, this temple's the only one that's focused on verticality, and we need to play Zelda's Lullaby to adjust the water levels. In order to travel underwater with no issue, we need to use the aforementioned water tunic to prevent drowning, and the iron boots obtained in the ice cavern to sink to the bottom. And Mario 64's Vanish Cap, apparently. Honestly, I wish most of these rooms here didn't look so samey, because as good of a gimmick this temple has, it'd be a lot less confusing if I could tell what place is what. I also know the original version had you pause to switch boots while I mapped it to my D-pad here, but oh well. Anyway, the only noteworthy things here are the 2 boss fights and the Sage of Water, that being Princess Ruto, and holy shit! Fuck, I want to make a funny sex joke, but I'm too stupid to. The first boss is Dark Link, who mirrors the player's input and has the exact same amount of health as us, but he's apparently allergic to hammers. And the main boss fight here is... Wow, how did Sonic Adventure come up 3 times in this video? Oh wow, an easy boss fight in Ocarina of Time? Who could have seen this coming? Up next is the Shadow Temple, but I'll just lump it with the Bottom of the Well, since it's basically just Bottom of the Well 2, even if BOTW was done after the Forest Temple in this playthrough. And yes, I just abbreviated it to BOTW in the script. Ah yes, my favorite Nintendo Switch game, The Legend of Zelda Bottom of the Well. In the Kakariko Village windmill back in the future, this dude is pissed off. On this day 7 years ago, some jackass with a green tunic played the Song of Storms to make it rain indoors, and then this dude proceeds to teach it to us. I mean, what did you think was gonna happen? Like I said, this song makes it rain, and activating it in the past windmill drains the well outside for us to explore the depths of this dungeon. As far as atmospheric dungeons go in this game, I think Bottom of the Well knocks it out of the park. In stark contrast to the peaceful village above the surface, the Bottom of the Well has a really haunting and foreboding tone throughout. It's littered with prison bars, chains, skulls, and a spooky music track playing. I like the implication that the Sheikah used the Bottom of the Well to torture enemies of the royal family, showing a darker side of Hyrule's history. It's pretty cool. Anyway, the main gimmick of this dungeon is that some walls are fake and we can just walk through them. If you fall through fake ground, you're punished by going down this little cave, which is pretty annoying personally. Call it a skill issue or whatever, but it took me about an hour to get through this dungeon, gold skulltulas and all. For comparison, that's twice as much as any child dungeon, while the Forest Temple took me, I think, 40 minutes. But eventually we fight the boss in this area, Dead Hand, who looks pretty damn creepy, but the boss itself is fairly simple and doesn't take too long, because that's just how every boss fight is in this game, apparently. Thankfully, we're rewarded with the Lens of Truth, a magical magnifying glass that lets us see hidden secrets throughout the game, as well as seeing through the fake walls within this dungeon. Make sure not to keep it on though, as it depletes your magic meter. I learned that the hard way. The Shadow Temple is pretty much the same, except bigger, added guillotines, a ghostly pirate ship for some reason, and a new item in the form of the hover boots, allowing you to temporarily float mid-air. Overall, it was a pretty simple dungeon. I'll take anything over the water temple at this point. And as we see at the end, the temple is haunted by an evil spirit. Oh, sorry, I meant to say it's haunted by a tedious boss fight that makes me waste 3 fairies. Anyway, Impa is the next sage, she grants us the next medallion, and now we're at the final area of the game, Gerudo Valley. Gerudo Valley is the home of the Gerudo thieves, and it's where Ganondorf himself was born, being the only male of their all-female race. Ever since Ganon's taken over the world, the Gerudo destroyed the bridge to prevent any outsiders wandering in, but it shouldn't be a problem for me and Epona. The first mission to do here is rescue 4 innocent carpenters who were imprisoned by the Gerudo for simply being men. And as we can see, Link looks pretty manly. The next section is kinda stealth-focused, where we gotta avoid detection and travel through this labyrinthian structure to free the carpenters, and you can knock the Gerudo out with a quick arrow shot. Wouldn't this technically kill them? If they can just walk off an arrow to the head, they must be strong as hell. But really, this whole section is kinda soured when you remember that there's an easier solution to this. Instead of sneaking from room to room and avoiding the Gerudo, why doesn't Link just take estrogen and become a girl? The Gerudo would let her waltz around no problem, and Link would be much happier with herself. It's a win-win. But anyway, after we encounter each carpenter, we get to duel a Gerudo guard, showing off their sword skills, but as long as you go in for a jab after they do the Cyclone of Chaos from the hit PlayStation 2 video game God of War 2005, you can defeat them easily. After we rescue the carpenters, they're gonna repair the bridge outside, which I don't really care about, but the Gerudo give Link a prescription for estradiol, meaning we're now free to waltz around the thieves' hideout before going to the transitioning temple. If only. There's some cool extra stuff to do here, like the mini dungeon Gerudo training grounds that give you the optional ice arrows, but the next main thing is fucking hell, it's God of War all over again. Jokes aside, the Haunted Wasteland is miles better than the Desert of the Lost Souls, since I have the lens of truth to see where I'm supposed to go. That and the whole desert is covered in quicksand, meaning you'd need to constantly be on the move. You can stop to hookshot this box to get over a hill, for example, but for the most part, no dilly-dallying. And man, you can't just talk about Gerudo Valley without mentioning the music. I can't believe I almost forgot about it. It's probably one of the most iconic songs in the game, and it's a soundtrack full of iconic tunes. It's got this sense of urgency as we trek through the final area of the game, the harsh desert where Ganondorf was born. Every time the music stops playing because it goes to nighttime, I say fuck that and play the sun song. Past the Haunted Wasteland is the Spirit Temple, but upon entering it, we see a crawl space we can't enter as an adult. So after Sheik teaches us the Spirit Temple's warp song, we can go back, regress ourselves, and enter the temple again. We meet Naburu, the leader of the Gerudo under Ganon's command. But even if she works for Ganondorf, she doesn't really agree with his cruel methods, urging to take him down. After talking to her for a bit, she lets us traverse the first half of the Spirit Temple. See, this temple's gimmick is that you need to do the first half as a child and the other half as an adult. The child half is pretty straightforward, testing your skills with all the child weapons and introducing a new item in the form of the Bomb Chew, a bomb that scurries along floors and walls like a mouse. We also need to shine light on this sun thingamabob, sacrifice this floating dildo that mirrors our movement, and fight a new enemy in the form of the Iron Knuckle, who does not fuck around. Eventually we go outside and obtain the silver gauntlets, which allow us to pick up heavy stuff in adult form, but we promised Naburu we'd give them to her, so let's go. Never mind, I guess Ganondorf's 2 moms have plans for her. The adult half of the temple is more of the same as the child half, except we get to use the silver gauntlets and it's a little more advanced than the child half. All except for Iron Knuckle, who's a fucking joke now. We also get to use the mirror shield, which reflects light beams and oh god, no, not again. Oh, sorry, this part just gives me war flashbacks. Eventually we get to fight another Iron Knuckle, but upon the helmet being removed, we see that those 2 witches, Kotake and Koume, brainwashed Naburu to do their bidding, but thanks to us, she broke free. Soon afterward, we get to fight the sisters themselves, and unfortunately, this boss is pretty boring. You're supposed to use the mirror shield to deflect each one's attacks since they're both weak to each other, but most of the boss just consists of waiting for them to strike, only for them to fire, but then the shot will miss because the other sister isn't anywhere to be found. The second phase has them fused together Dragon Ball style, and Was that wink really necessary? Anyway, this phase is slightly better since now it's pretty much guaranteed to hit them, but it's still just a waiting game, not helped by the fact that you need to absorb the same elemental attack 3 times to unleash it on them. But regardless, once we beat the twins, we get this funny cutscene where they start arguing when they realize they're dead. With that said, we travel back to the Sacred Realm, recruit Naburu, and get our last medallion. And now we recruited all 7 sages. That's right, all 6 of them. There's only 6 sages. Where's the 7th one? Oh well, I guess we better go ask our good pal Shrek. Sheik explains that Ganon didn't take control of the entire Triforce, just the Triforce of Power, and for the past 7 years he's been searching for the other 2 pieces. The Triforce of Wisdom and Courage are wielded by 2 children chosen by destiny, and as it so happens, Sheik is the 7th sage and the wielder of the Triforce of Wisdom, and Link is the hero chosen by destiny to wield the Triforce of Courage. Oh, and also Sheik is actually Princess Zelda in disguise. She apologizes for keeping her identity a secret, but it was the only way to stay undetected by Ganon. And now that the 7 sages and the other 2 pieces of the Triforce are united, we're finally ready to take down Ganondorf. Zelda gives us a weapon worthy of taking down evil, the Arrows of Light. But since we can't have nice things, Ganon decides Zelda would have much more fun in this little chrysalis than talking with Link. All this time, Ganon's been thinking that the Triforce of Courage was actually the Triforce of Cuckery, but now that we've united the sages, Ganon sees the error of his ways, inviting Link to his spooky castle to settle this once and for all. Zelda is then beamed away, meaning the only thing standing between us and Hyrule's salvation is Ganondorf's castle. Once we're ready to enter, the sages help by creating a bridge of pure light to access the tower, and upon entering we see that the path ahead is blocked off by 6 magical barriers, each of which corresponds with one of the 6 sages. And I gotta say, for the final dungeon in the game, it wasn't too hard to go through. Don't get me wrong, there were a couple of annoying moments, like... At this point, I already got the golden gauntlets that allow you to get rid of these massive pillars, so I decided to just leave so I could repurchase the tunic and shield before continuing. There's also a great fairy fountain outside that increases your defense, which is very appreciated. Once I made it back, I did that puzzle no problem. It was nothing compared to the first playthrough where I didn't realize I needed the fire arrows to continue. Oopsie daisies. Anyway, the objective is to use the light arrows to destroy the barriers, and once you do, one of the sages cheers you on as you advance forward. I will say though, I like that this dungeon feels like a mix of all the temples we've done, mixing up all the different puzzle mechanics we've encountered. But when I got to the water barrier, it takes after the ice cavern instead of the water temple. I guess they didn't want to make a section that was focused on verticality again, which is great because if they did, I would have blown my brains out. Regardless, once we break all the barriers, we get to scale the tower, listening to a faint organ playing Ganondorf's theme song. As we ascend more and more, the music gets louder and louder until eventually we make it to the top, ready to take down Ganondorf. Okay, so I have a confession to make. During the first playthrough, I installed a music pack and found 2 final boss songs I love to death in it, so the boss music here is gonna be different, sorry. So here we are at the final boss, the great king of evil, Ganondorf. I can't believe Atlas got permission from Nintendo to use this song for the final boss of Persona 3. Anyway, as we saw, Ganondorf resonates with a strong, dark energy preventing Navi from helping out in the fight. As such, we can't lock onto him. This phase has you dodge these devastating Baja Blasts coming your way, which I absolutely suck at dodging. Thank God for the 2 fairies in my inventory, Jesus. I did fuck up a couple times and landed way down here with all these pots, which also help out if you're low on anything. But of course, the main way of defeating him is the world's most heated match of tennis. The timing can get a little tricky to get down, and it feels really embarrassing if you miss your shot. But if you land a successful hit on Ganon, you gotta shoot him with the light arrows and slice him up with the Master Sword. As long as you get in the rhythm of things, you should have no problem with this phase. It also lasted a lot longer than I thought it would. Like, this dude just won't quit throwing it back at me. After a devastating blow from the hero of time, Ganondorf grovels in defeat and he starts coughing up blood, which is surprising for a Nintendo game, and I was not surprised at all when I learned that they removed this in future releases as well. But now that Ganondorf is dead, the room fucking explodes and Zelda is freed from her imprisonment. All is well in Hyrule, and... Oh right, I forgot about the crucial detail that Ganon is using the last of his power to destroy the tower, so Link and Zelda have to Metroid their way out of here. What follows is a tense timed escape sequence where we have to take an alternate route via the side of the building, and Zelda actually helps out by using magic to open these gates for us. There really isn't much to this section besides that, but it's a cool moment nonetheless. They do throw some enemies in the way to slow you down, but they weren't much of a hassle. Once we're done, the tower crumbles and Ganon is still alive. Shocker, I know. And he uses the Triforce of Power to transform into a giant pig, much like his classic appearances. This is the second and final phase against Ganon, and real quick shoutouts to the original music. It's got this sense of weight, and it really makes the climax feel like the fate of the world is in your hands. But of course, I had to ruin it by replacing it with fucking Sonic 06 music. Zelda uses her magic to hold Ganon in place for a brief moment, and now it's time for Link to use the Master Sword to deliver the finishing blow. With Ganon banished to the, evil realm, real creative, Nintendo, Ganon curses us out like a Saturday morning cartoon villain, vowing to break out of his prison to exterminate the future incarnations of Link and Zelda. And with that, we finally saved Hyrule from Ganon's reign of terror. Zelda acknowledges she was too young to understand the consequences of attempting to control the Sacred Realm, so in a bittersweet goodbye, she sends Link to the past so he can prevent this whole thing from happening and regain his lost childhood. From what I understand, this is where the Zelda timeline splits 3 ways, 2 of which follow the past and future paths, while the third one is one where Link fails to defeat Ganon, leading up to the events of Link to the Past, which is a little weird when you consider that the original intention of Ocarina of Time was supposed to be a prequel to Link to the Past, and now that's relegated to a what-if scenario, but who cares. Soon after, the credits start to roll, showcasing all the various locations and wonderful people this adventure had to offer, and we cap it off with this iconic shot of the Master Sword resting on its altar in the Temple of Time. Afterward, we get to see Link warn Zelda about the whole thing, and the game is over. Don't you just love when games used to freeze at the credits? So that was The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, aka the first Zelda game that I've beaten. I can't believe I spent so many years missing out on this gem. It was really fun to tackle. I know I played it on an unofficial PC port, but for the most part the game aged pretty well, with its mechanics going on to inspire the next 30 years of gaming. It had some of the most iconic music in the medium, intricately designed puzzles, an incredibly charming art style, and while the story was pretty simple on the surface, it did have really cool themes it plays around with, like the fear of growing up. Needless to say, I had an absolute blast, and I can't wait to dip my toes a little more into the Zelda pool. I heard great things from the likes of Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, so I'm excited to purchase them legally. With that said, I'll just end it off like I usually do. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, hit that notif bell, and follow me on my other socials to keep up with my other stuff. You can also become a patron for cool perks like getting to see videos early or seeing your name on the end screen. Oh, I wonder what this could be.